Sure, here's an edited English version of your text, formatted for screen recording narration. I've removed the HTML code so it reads naturally for dictation or voiceover, keeping headings, emojis, and structure intact. You can read it smoothly without technical distractions. Moscow signal, detailed analysis. Below is an analytical overview about the so-called Moscow signal, what it was, how it was technically implemented, who was behind the operation, what its objectives were, what health research was conducted, and what conclusions and controversies remain. This can serve as an analytical appendix for reports or statements. Brief overview, what it was. Moscow signal was the code name for a series of directed microwave emissions or radiofrequency fields aimed at the US Embassy in Moscow during the Cold War, approximately 1953 to 1976, with some sources noting observations later. The signals were in the 2.5 to 4.0 gigahertz range and created a constant low-intensity exposure inside embassy premises. Technical characteristics and source. Frequency range, approximately 2.5 to 4 gigahertz in the microwave band. Intensity, estimates varied ranging from around 5 microwatts per square centimetre up to 10 to 15 in some periods. This was far below thresholds for thermal effects, but higher than some Soviet regulatory limits at the time. Source: beams originated from buildings or apartments approximately 100 metres from the embassy, using stationary transmitters directed at the eastern facade, with peak intensity around floors 3 to 8. Who was behind the operation? Historians and declassified documents indicate that the actions were carried out by Soviet security services, specifically radio interception and technical intelligence units operating under the KGB and GRU. The methods align with Soviet practices in radio technical intelligence and counterintelligence. Declassified correspondence from ambassadors and agencies shows close oversight and coordination at the highest levels. Possible objectives of the signal: 1. Technical electronic intelligence, using microwaves to enhance or activate hidden surveillance devices, also called bug activation, intercept radio and telephone lines, and maintain technical control. 2. Electromagnetic jamming disruption, disorganizing the operation of the embassy. 3. Health, behavioral influence operations. A speculative hypothesis suggests possible chronic exposure of personnel, but this has not been scientifically proven. US response: Operation Pandora and countermeasures. The United States investigated operational and scientific responses, including Operation Pandora. The NSA, CIA, State Department, and independent scientific groups were involved. Countermeasures included shielding windows and rooms, changing internal communications, technical disconnection of vulnerable systems, diplomatic protests, inspections, and relocating some services. Health studies and epidemiology. In the 1970s, a retrospective epidemiological study led by Abraham Lilienfeld at Johns Hopkins compared the health of Moscow embassy staff with other Eastern European embassies. A 1978 publication concluded no obvious adverse effects. Later analyses in the 2010s suggested a possible elevated mortality in certain cancers among staff, but a causal link to low-intensity exposure remains unproven. Known symptoms and staff accounts. Diplomatic cables and medical notes mentioned various ailments: headaches, sleep disturbances, and occasionally serious illnesses in some individuals. A direct causal link to the exposure was not scientifically proven. Why it matters today. Legacy and parallels. Technical legacy, an early example of using electromagnetic means in intelligence and counterintelligence operations. Political impact, diplomatic protests, discussions on personnel safety and secrecy of exposure. Modern parallels. Havana syndrome has drawn comparisons, but the mechanisms remain a subject of research and debate. Sources and declassified documents, peer-reviewed articles and reviews, including Microwaves in the Cold War, the Moscow Embassy Study and its Interpretation, 2012. Declassified CIA, NSA and State Department documents, as well as the National Security Archive at George Washington University. Official technical assessments from Osti and Panzer and State Department's internal reports, partially declassified. Conclusion. Moscow signal was a confirmed instance of directed low-intensity microwave exposure to the US Embassy in Moscow around 1953 to 1976. 2. Probable perpetrators were Soviet security services KGB and GRU, using directional transmitters from nearby buildings. 3. The main objective was technical intelligence, interception and activation of listening devices. Hypotheses about direct health applications are not scientifically proven. 4. Epidemiological and medical results remain controversial. Initial findings showed no clear harm, but later analyses suggest possible associations, though causation is unestablished. Donate to BLE to support our startup researching BLE, IoT, and AI. Our mission is to create solutions to protect people from harmful exposure and AI-based control systems. Support us financially and together we can make this world safer. Visit support, please open your app to see this link.